Hello. There are many things that constitute an advantage. Often it's very difficult to pinpoint it on just one thing. Some fighters have a greater bone density, their wrists may be thicker. Some fighters have more fast twitch, which makes them more explosive. There are many things that constitute an advantage, and of course, bringing down a mass advantage from a bigger weight class is a huge one. Of course it is. That's why so many fighters do it. You bring a bank of attributes from a higher weight class to a lower one. You build residual myonuclei, physical ability, then bring it down. That's what Jerry Cannonier did. But of course, as we saw versus Robert Whittaker, that's not everything. And Robert Whittaker himself, he came from a smaller weight class to a heavier one, middleweight. And he became a champion there. He beat Yoel Romero, who actually cuts a lot of weight as well. Of course, Yoel Romero is a freak in his own right. Luke Rockhold kicks with his shin, lands against Romero and says it feels like steel. Hitting his bone against bone feels like steel. And of course, his ligaments are just thicker than a normal human being's. He has thicker ligaments and tendons. He's just a different type of specimen. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there are different advantages based upon the individual. And so take Cody Garbrandt, for example. He actually doesn't cut any weight. He doesn't cut any weight, if at all, when he competes. And he's actually one of the fastest fighters you could ever witness. The man looks like lightning. Why is this? How does that work as an advantage for him? That's one of the distinctions I'd like to make. A big weight cut versus a smaller weight cut, if at all. Of course, versus Gastelum, he can outstrike them with his advantage, not cutting a lot of weight. But versus someone like Chris Weidman, he can get touched up if he recovers. He can hold him with his bank of attributes, wrestle him, tire him out with his mass and superior physical ability, the contractile strength advantage possessed by his muscles, tire Gastelum out and win the fight. But that's just it. Even Kelvin Gastelum, who doesn't cut a lot of weight, he has an advantage there, doesn't he? Whenever you see him strike, he often schools people. If people choose to stand and bang with Kelvin Gastelum, look at Israel Adesany's last fights. He doesn't have a scratch on his face. None of them, except for the one where he fights Kelvin Gastelum. That guy's a freak of nature of a striker, and there's a reason for that. The reason why their striking is so fluid, so fast, so dangerous, is because we have this connective tissue in our bodies called fascia, sliding sheaths, which act as force transmission systems. And one of the ways they work effectively is just by being properly hydrated. Water is what helps lubricate your fascia, which in turn helps it work more effectively. That's why fighters who look better hydrated often have more fluid looking striking. Their fascia is just working better. That's one advantage of a smaller weight cut. And of course, that's perhaps one of the reasons as to why Khabib Nurmagomedov doesn't look like the most fluid striker. His striking definitely has gotten a lot better. But when it comes to his grappling, of course he has a big weight cut, he brings down a huge bank of attributes. I'm not trying to discredit Khabib Nurmagomedov's overall skill. When it comes to his grappling IQ, I think we haven't even really seen it, to be honest. We haven't even seen how good he is. We haven't even touched the surface as to how good he is. It hasn't been pushed to that point. I think he's so much better in his grappling ability than everyone else that he's just bored. But to say he doesn't have a physical advantage is absolutely silly. That's silly.
Khabib, man.
What is it about Khabib that really stands out to you?
Too strong, man. He's really too physically strong for these. Khabib can grab me and pummel. I'm like, how do you pummel with me? It's unfortunate that he's gotten this reputation for missing weight because he missed it at such a big time. He's made weight in the UFC more times than he's not. He's missed weight, I think, twice.
If you cut that much weight, you're going to have a physical advantage. If you've been grappling since childhood, you're going to have a rare grappling strength. That does not discredit the IQ, but that does not discredit the existence of that physical ability. That's perhaps one of the reasons why his striking never looked as fluid. I would like to see what his striking looks like now that he's not weight cutting. But for sure, if you're well hydrated, if you have well lubricated fascia because you're better hydrated. Take someone like Cody Garbrandt, it's definitely going to give you a better working force transmission system, a better working fascia. And that, quite frankly, is the yin and yang. For every advantage, there's also a disadvantage. For every disadvantage, there's also an advantage. Of course, cutting weight gives you a massive, massive advantage. You have the ability to physically impose yourself on other people, and in many cases, once you get your hands on them, just the difference in physical ability, it can make it easier to put yourself at a technical vantage point. But one thing we see amongst many MMA strikers who don't cut a lot of weight is just more fluid striking because their fascia is working better. There's always an advantage and a disadvantage to everything. It's a game of self-awareness at the end of the day. There is no perfect method. There is no ideal formula. There have been champions from both sides of the equation. And so at the end of the day, it truly is a matter of figuring out what's the best for you. That's the game of life, really. When there is no fixed method, even on the grand stage, it acts as a looking glass to the truth of our reality all the same. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, peace.